Every generation gets one shot at a moment like this. Not the incremental stuff, not the satellite launches and the cargo contracts, the real thing. The moment the species reaches somewhere it has never reached, and the word impossible gets retired in a specific category forever. That moment is here. The hardware exists. The launches are happening. Starship Vive 3 lifted off this morning from South Texas, and the numbers attached to what comes next are real enough that the people building it have stopped calling them ambitions and started calling them schedules. The argument is no longer whether humans will walk on Mars. It's who they'll be when they get there. This is every level. From the welder in Texas to the first footprint on Martian soil to the 70-year-old watching sunset from a colony of 12,000. Let's go. Level 1. The Starbase worker. You live 12 minutes from the launch site. You weld stainless steel for a living. Not a PhD, not an engineer. One of several thousand people who drive through the security gate every morning and spend 12 hours building the largest rocket ever made. Starship. Taller than the Statue of Liberty. 33 engines. More thrust than anything humans have ever lit on purpose. You know the seam lines of this vehicle intimately. You have watched iterations of it explode and get progressively better. You were in the car park the morning a previous version destroyed its own launch pad. 3 months later, they launched again. 3 months after that, they caught the descending booster between two giant mechanical arms, and the internet broke, and you had welded part of what caught it, and you cried briefly in a Texas car park because something your hands made helped catch a falling rocket. Today, Starship Vive 3 is on the pad. You built part of it. In 3 hours, something you made is going to light its engines. You drink your coffee. You go to your station. The pad is visible from the canteen window. You don't look at it. Looking makes the waiting worse. Level 2. The Propulsion engineer. 6 years on the Raptor engine. The most technically demanding work of your life. It burns methane and liquid oxygen at combustion chamber pressures above 300 bar. The engineering community considered this class of engine practically unachievable for decades. You built it. The tolerances require materials operating at their absolute limit. You have spent 6 years at that limit, failing and learning and failing differently until the failure modes were mapped and the engine could be certified for crewed flight. But the engine is only half of it. The manufacturing philosophy is the other half, and it's the part nobody outside this industry fully appreciates. The plan requires engines produced at industrial volumes, 1,000 ships, 100 people each, every 26 months. You are not designing an engineering achievement. You are designing a manufacturing paradigm that does not yet exist in aerospace. The orbital refueling question keeps you up. 60 tanker launches to fuel 5 Starships for the first Mars window. 60 cryogenic propellant transfers in microgravity at scales nobody has ever demonstrated. The concept is sound. The flight data is essentially zero. You go back to the simulation. You always go back to the simulation. Level 3. The mission controller. The room is quieter than the movies suggest. Denser, more data, more concentration. Drama means something wasn't anticipated, and your job is to anticipate everything. 2 uncrewed Starships have already landed on Mars. The world has not fully processed this. 2 vehicles built by humans flew 7 months through space, entered an atmosphere 1% as thick as Earth's, and put themselves on the surface of another planet. The Optimus robots aboard the second mission are currently operational on the Martian surface. There are photographs. Now you are managing the first crewed mission. 8 people, 7 months. 1 atmospheric entry into conditions that will test every system your team has certified, and several certified with less data than you would like. The launch window is open 3 weeks, 1 shot every 26 months. Miss it and the crew waits 2 years while the pressure that is already considerable becomes something else entirely. T-10. Everything nominal, everything nominal, everything nominal. You give the launch directive. The vehicle clears the tower. You breathe level 4. The Astronaut. 4 years of training did not prepare you for what 7 months in space does to a body. The bone density loss you managed with 2 hours of resistance exercise daily. The fluid shift, the vision changes, the radiation accumulating outside the magnetosphere. You knew the numbers. You accepted them. What training could not simulate is the psychological weight of the distance, not the 20-minute communication delay. Something else. At around week 6, you look at a display showing Earth as a point of light indistinguishable from the other points of light and understand, in your body rather than your intellect, that the entire history of your species is in that point. Every person who ever lived, and you are the furthest from it any human has ever been. You manage it by working. The schedule is unforgiving, and busyness is the closest thing to healthy that the situation allows. Entry takes 11 minutes, 20,000 kilometers per hour to zero. Heat shield doing its job, engines firing in sequence, ground coming up fast on the feed, landing legs deploy, engine silence, Martian wind. You are down. Level 5, the first human on the surface. The hatch takes 4 minutes to cycle. 4 minutes is a long time on this side of it. You go down the ladder, 7 rungs. You count them without deciding to. You step off the footpad. Your boot contacts Martian regolith for the first time in human history. Finer than Earth soil, more powdery. The compression is different. The suit breathes for you. You are standing somewhere no human has ever stood, and the suit is breathing recycled tank air, and the sun is smaller than expected, and the sky is a color Earth has no name for. You say the words you prepared. 4 years of thinking about them. They feel insufficient the moment they leave your mouth. You say them anyway because 700 million people are watching with a 40-minute delay, and these words will arrive on Earth as history before they arrive as news. Behind you, the crew is coming down. The robots from the earlier mission are working several hundred meters to the north. You take a photograph. Nobody asked you to. You take it because you are human, and humans photograph what matters most. Level 6. The first year. The romance lasts 72 hours. Then survival begins. The habitat was pre-deployed. The robots built it. You trust the engineering the way you trust all of it, completely in theory and with background vigilance in practice, because the outside temperature at night drops to -80, and the atmosphere is 1% as thick as Earth's, and if the habitat fails, there is no rescue. The geology saves you in the worst weeks. When Earth feels like a concept rather than a place. When the 40-minute communication round trip makes real conversation impossible. When your crewmates, whom you genuinely like, are the only humans within 54 million kilometers, and the claustrophobia of that accumulates rather than diminishes. On those nights you read about the geology, the largest volcano in the solar system, the longest canyon, the ancient ocean beds 3 billion years dry. You are standing in one of them. That perspective is, on the bad days, enough. In week 4, the first crops germinate, nowhere near sufficient. You are still dependent on Earth supplies, but they grow. The first plants ever grown in Martian soil, and you watch them with the attention the first farmers gave the first crops. Something about this small growing thing is the beginning of the most important dependency in human history on this world. Level 7, the colony. It is 2035. There are 400 people on Mars, 3 habitat clusters connected by pressurized corridors, a greenhouse producing 30% of caloric needs, water extraction from subsurface ice, a nuclear reactor, a medical bay, a workshop manufacturing replacement components from Martian materials. The infrastructure arrived shipment by shipment across a decade of 26-month windows, and it accumulated into something that now feels like a place rather than an installation, and a school, with 11 children. Born on Mars, who have never been to Earth, who find the concept of an ocean genuinely difficult to visualize, whose bodies, developing in 38% gravity and elevated radiation, are being subtly shaped by conditions no human body evolved for. The children changed everything, not operationally, psychologically. The day the first child was born on Mars, the colony stopped being an outpost and became a place where people are born and will grow up and will die having known only this. Where the chain of generations will eventually produce people for whom Earth is ancestry rather than home. That is the real transition, not the first landing, the first birth. Level 8, what comes after. You are 70 years old and you have lived 30 of those years on Mars. 12,000 people across 3 settlements, steel manufactured from Martian ore, 60% food self-sufficiency. A communications infrastructure mature enough that the delay is a feature of life rather than an isolating constraint. Martian writers and musicians followed on Earth the way people follow artists from other countries. Mars is another country now, the newest and strangest, and the one with the most unusual visa requirements. The terraforming debate continues. Whether to attempt atmospheric modification, whether the ethics of transforming a planetary environment are coherent, whether the subsurface drilling program will eventually find microbial life that changes all the calculations. These are the right questions. They are the questions a species asks when it is taking seriously what it has become capable of. You sit outside the original habitat in a lighter suit than the one you wore on the first day. The sky does what it does at Martian sunset, turning colors that Earth has no names for. The first footprint is preserved 2 kilometers away under a dome. The photograph you took on the first day is in the archives of 2 planets. The people born here call you the Ancients, with the warmth young people reserve for those who did something so large at the beginning of something so long that the ending still cannot be seen. You accept this. You don't feel ancient. You feel like a welder in a Texas car park in 2026 who somehow ended up here. Every weld, every simulation, every second of the 7-month transit, every rung of the 7-rung ladder, every morning checking the habitat readings, every week the geology saved you, every window that brought more people, all of it led here. 12,000 people on another planet calling it home, worth every bit of it,